Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Gary Keller.
Good morning. You know, I went into my, please sit down. Got in my closet this morning in the hotel and I said, I gotta wear some real estate apparel. And the only thing I had was my neighbor hoodie. You got to get up pretty early in the morning. All right, so normally Jay and I would come out and we would say, it was an interesting year last year, and stick with us for the next 90 minutes. We're gonna fly through this thing and tell you what's going on and what we think is gonna happen. And we're not doing that this year. So we're gonna have an entirely different conversation today. Unfortunately, and I apologize for your butts, but it's gonna take a little longer. But I think you're gonna get a lot out of it. And so let's start. Let me just say again, first thing I told the guys, I said, look, I want to have this conversation. I don't want to give a speech. What I want to do is I want the three of us to have the same conversations that we literally have every day on your behalf. And we want you to just sit back, right, lean back, and we want you to listen to the dialogues that we have on your behalf. And then we're going to talk. Then I'm going to talk to you about what you just heard. Is that fair enough? So the first thing is we don't wear suits. So we didn't wear suits, right? So before we get started, Josh, if you would just take a second and tell me just a little about yourself.
I'm Josh Team. I'm joined Keller Williams about 2.5 years ago. I actually got into programming when I was really young, about 13, and went to college when I was a little younger. In fact, when I was a freshman in college, I couldn't go to a radar movie. So I found my first inverse correlation.
You didn't go, or you weren't supposed to go?
I wasn't supposed to go,
okay,
yes.
Yeah.
And so let's just say that the college girls and guys didn't like to hang out with a young kid. So I played more video games, I played computers, and then left college pretty quickly. And actually, when I was 17, started working full time. And started working for Fortune 50 companies, and got the pleasure to work with big brands like Bank of America, Exxon, AMC Theaters, building out digital innovation. About 3 years ago, Business Insider named me 30 under 30 most creative people. And we got into a conversation, and now I'm here.
Why Keller Williams? You could have gone anywhere.
Well, the opportunity to change the world, a lot of companies don't have that. We hear them all with Apple and Amazon, and the reason they're so powerful is because they have leadership that buys in, and they have the ability to distribute that innovation through their channels. So Amazon has lots of eyeballs, Apple has lots of people on their platform, and we had the leadership here that bought in, and we're the largest real estate company on the planet, so we can change the world.
Yep. All right, so welcome aboard, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get started. So the Economic Global Forum a few years ago identified the era that you and I are in today as the fourth industrial revolution. So what I'd like to do is, at least for the next hour, is I kind of want to walk you through so that at the end of that, you have a real sense of the world that you're actually living in today, and a sense of the world that you're living in as it relates to real estate. So let's just dive in here. So one of the things that I'm very aware of, not only for my life, but for yours, is that right now, we're living in two different times, right? It's the best of times for the remarkable individual, and it is the worst of times for the unremarkable, okay? And unfortunately, you're gonna have to make a decision about who you are. We're living in a time where technology is rewriting the rules for just about everything. It's reinventing job descriptions, it's reimagining businesses, it's creating new industries, and it's eliminating others. Technology has more of a relationship with the consumer than people do. Now just think about that. And the most interesting thing about these times, and we talk about this literally every day, and that is profit is a distraction on the way to disruption. One of the biggest challenges that you and I have today in our industry is that the companies that we talk about every day, from Zillow to companies like that, folks, they don't have to make a profit. This all goes back to Amazon. You can thank Amazon for this one. And that is, Jeff Bezos did a remarkable job of convincing Wall Street that profit was a distraction. That as long as they were innovating and as long as they were getting eyeballs, as long as they were getting market share, that they were going to define value in the stock market that way instead of value as in profitable. Now, I challenge you to go home tonight to your spouse and try to sell that idea. But that's the world we live in. You can sit there and say it's unfair. There's a certain amount of that's unfair, but that's just the way it is, right? So we're living in a time of immense change if you're the tail, and a time of immense opportunity if you're the dog. You want to be the dog. Okay. So let's talk about how we got here and where we're going. So I just wanted to put this up there. I know that I was told that Brad couldn't be here this year, and I really put this there for his purposes, because most recently he paid us the biggest insulting compliment one could ever pay someone. But I want you to look at it, and I want you to just burn that into your soul, and that is, he called you the darling of the old world. Now, to be honest with you, there's a little bit of truth to that, okay? It's one of the reasons why when we celebrate all the successes that we've had, I usually do that for about a minute. And then, they're laughing because they know me. And I just move on. And the reason is because the game's afoot. And everything that we did in the past has absolutely set the table for what we can do in the future. And you're going to see that today, okay?
You've signed every email I've ever gotten from you, onward.
Yeah.
It is a theme in your life.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what I do. It's interesting how that happened. I was going through a really tough time in my life, and was having an email conversation with a good friend. And at the end of it, I said, I guess we have no choice but just to keep moving onward. And I ended the sentence like that, and they responded to it that way. So the next email I sent my friend, I just signed it onward. And then by the end of the email dialogue between the two of us, I was just signing my emails onward. And the thing is that everybody, when they get it, most often think I'm talking to them. I'm talking to myself when I say it. I'm reminding myself that I have no choice. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to prove the industry wrong about that statement.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here's the problem with that is, I can't do it. I can only be your partner. You're going to have to do it. You're going to have to do it. That statement was about you, not just me. Okay? And I think he was actually talking about the industry. So I'm ready to rewrite the rules if you are. Okay? Okay. So I'm ready for us to reinvent our job descriptions and reimagine our businesses. And when we do this, I believe we'll transform our careers, our businesses, our industry, and provide better service to our customers. And by the way, I think we'll all make a profit doing it. Okay? So let's look at the revolutions of the past. The first one was the loom, right? And the second was the steam engine. The third is the assembly line. And I do believe they're correct, guys. I absolutely believe that we are in the fourth the industrial revolution. And by the way, notice what it is. It's big data and artificial intelligence, right? So let's talk about this. So we're in an era today of the machine-powered know-it-all business, meaning that it's always on, it's always learning, and it's always thinking. But here's the big challenge. In order for you to be, you or me or any business person today, to be competitive in the fourth industrial revolution, we have to move to digital platforms. And we'll talk about that today, about how that works. But that's exactly how Netflix beat Blockbuster. So I don't want to revisit history a little bit, but let me just kind of remind you what happened. Remember, Netflix, Blockbuster's out there, they are the darling of Wall Street. It's a $1 billion business. It's the second $1 billion business that Wayne Huizinga had started, right? The first one was in the trash business. Mm-hmm. And so he did the Blockbuster thing, and they were phenomenally successful. And what happens is Blockbuster charged late fees, and that's where they made a lot of their money. So there was a gentleman who didn't like that, and he started a business where you could rent DVDs online and have a much bigger catalog selection than the store, and you wouldn't have to pay any late fees. So the first way that they beat Blockbuster is by getting all of us to go to a platform to order our DVDs. They knew where you lived. They knew what time you got on the computer, what time you got off. They knew what movies you looked at and how long you looked at each movie before you made a decision to rent it or not. They saw when you put it in a queue, they saw how long you kept movies before you went to the next movie. And using that simple algorithm, they placed their warehouses strategically all over the United States so they could guarantee the 24-hour turnaround time. Now, Blockbuster didn't have a clue about this, but what they didn't understand is these were pop-up warehouses. They knew they did them by regions, they did them by states, and this is how they got their first mover position. Now, I want you to remember something. How did they get all the content? They got the content because they went out and bought DVDs just like you, and then they rented them back to you. They just went out and bought them. That's how they got content. And all those DVDs were available, so they just got wholesale prices, and that's what they did. That make sense? Okay. What else did they do? What did they do? Well, here's the interesting thing. Fast forward. The next battle was over content. So they looked up and they said, we're going to create this streaming service for content. But they didn't have it. They didn't have a lot of content. When they went from DVD rentals to online streaming, folks, they didn't have the content. Well, everyone turned them down, and then the recession hit. When the recession hit, one movie provider buckled. Starz, an online movie rental service, right, through your cable provider, needed money in the downturn. So for $25 million a year, they gave all of their content over to Netflix. The Disney content, all the content that you enjoyed, all of a sudden, all the content is right there, live streaming, if you will, with Netflix. Now, the problem with that is it had to be on a device. And right then, the devices were really small. So the third thing that happened in the disruption chain is one day Steve Jobs called Netflix out of nowhere, and he said, hey, I'm getting ready to launch a new product, and I want your live streaming movie service to be the sole provider of live streaming content on my new product I'm gonna call the iPad. And by the way, game, set, match, just like that. And I want you to hear exactly, this was a story of technology married with what? Data. And I want you to notice that in this story, they never created their own data. They simply got it from other people. Now, do I need to stop and give you a lesson on your industry? You have single-handedly created the most valuable real estate company on the planet called Zillow. They don't create original content. They simply got it by the local stores in every local market called MLSs and Board of Realtors. And they all did it for the same reason that Starz did it, and that is this is a new thing, it's edgy, we need to get ahead of it, we need to be out there, and we're gonna, right? And we can make a little money by doing this. Yeah, there you go. Brilliant thinking, folks. All right. So the challenge that you and I both have is that businesses can no longer bolt on technology. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. Let's think about Keller Williams, just as a sidebar statement. You know, when we started the firm and then reinvented it, the first thing, we'll talk about this a little later, we literally had to invent technology, right? You can't profit share without technology. And then, oh, by the way, in order to make sure that it's accurate, you have to invent technology that is used in every market center in order to bring the data in for us then to use our technology to analyze that and turn around and distribute money back. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. So, by the way, we have a history. We wrote our first software, and I know this because I hired the person that wrote it, and he came to our apartment when Mary and I got married and worked out of the second bedroom every day, and we wrote all that together. We invented it and wrote it together. Okay. And then later we wrote the Moore system and invented all of that to do that. Now, in the history of the company, Mary, How many times have we missed that profit share check coming out on time, that money being deposited? Yeah, hadn't happened. Okay, how many times have you gotten a check or got money deposited and went, oh my gosh, it's the wrong amount? So I only say that up front to remind you or to remind the world that Keller Williams created the technology. And by the way, it's totally out of date, right? It's bubble gum, paper clips. I mean, it's got rubber bands behind there. Seriously, I mean, that's what it was, right? But did it work?
Yeah.
Yes, there you go. So when we stood up and said we're going to be a technology company, and people went, well, what does that mean? By the way, it only means one thing. We're going to go back to our roots, and going forward, we now build technology again. That's all that means. That's when we say we're a technology company, yeah, you need to clap. Because we have no choice. The biggest challenges that we face as a company, you can chime in anytime you want, the biggest challenges that we face as an organization, that we have faced, is that the second that we do bolt-on technology that anybody does, we become the unwitting recipient of whatever updates they want to make and whatever amount of money they're willing to spend to keep their product up to date. So whenever we launched a new technology product that was bolt-on in our history, the first day we did it, we were all geniuses. 90 days later, we were just smart. 6 months later, we were starting to look maybe a little stupid, and a year out, we're looking, everyone's going, well, this is horrible stuff. By the way, that's the path of anybody that bolts on technology.
And I think that we know is that bolt-on technology is anytime you're using another company's technology product that you didn't build and own. And I think we've all experienced, those companies will try to find a path to monetize those same agents. And so if you think of something really cool, then you're kind of stuck because you're saying, hey, let's work together to create this amazing thing. And they're like, well, why when I could just sell it? And so you're always in this tug of war around.
And anything you invent that you actually say, okay, I'll give you $100,000 and add that one feature. Well, they're going to add it for everybody.
And they're going to keep the data.
And they're going to keep it, yeah. So because Netflix was always on, always learning, always thinking, it was able to continually create better experiences for the customer, and over time made Blockbuster irrelevant. Guys, yeah. So let's look at what this fourth industrial revolution actually looks like. And this is your formula right here. Now, it all started with hardware, right? And this is actually the story of how disruption occurred. Because the first disruption was hardware was created, but then we had to have smart software that would make the hardware relevant. So then the software became really important. What's fascinating is IBM thought it was in the hardware. So they hired these two kids, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, to write the code for the IBM computer, and they let them keep the code. It'll go down in history as one of the craziest business deals ever done. They saw no value in the software. By the way, the reason I bring this up to you is there's a pattern. Wherever you are, the next one looks like it's not as important as the one you're in. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? You need to hear me, because you're at a moment in history where this now matters. To this point, it didn't matter, believe it or not, right? I just made fun of the fact that we gave our data to Zillow. Cool, great. How are you doing? Did they put you out of business? No. Did they lower your commissions? No. They didn't find any more buyers. They don't find any more sellers. They don't get sellers better prices. They don't get buyers better homes. They haven't done anything except get in the middle and sell you leads. But in the process, they still haven't put you out of business. But the reason is because they haven't gotten all the way through this chain yet. Okay? So, by the way, hardware, then we have software, and then we have supercomputing. So you had hardware, then you had software, and then you looked up and you realized, oh my gosh, I need to store more data than my hardware can hold, and voila, someone invented the cloud. So we can literally take those three and put those up there, and what you need to realize is that's a commodity. If you were starting a business today, you could literally, for a certain very low amount of money, you could go get some inexpensive hardware, buy some software off the shelf, right? And you could go set up for a cloud service with who? Amazon or Google or Microsoft or Apple. Yeah. That's where you're going to go. Okay. You could do all of that. So what is the fourth industrial revolution about if it's not about those three? That's just like setting the table before we serve the food. That's all that is. That's why the way I state it in the room with our guys is that we're losing so slowly we think we're winning. Do you hear that? Good. Good. Because that's what's happening. We're losing so slowly we think we're winning. And when a publicly held company or a VC-backed company tells you they will never do something, they are liars. And I don't mean that to offend. I don't say that for any reason other than it's the truth. And I don't want to whitewash what it is. I could call them fibbers. But by the way, they can be fired. Just check out Uber and see if that guy's still around. They can kick your butt out of that company as fast as you can do that. So any promise they make or any statement they make about how they view the industry is just a point in time, and it's a sales pitch. Right? It's a sales pitch. All right, so where's the battle? It's around AI and big data. So let's talk about that. So what is artificial intelligence? And again, I'm not trying to be grade school here, so you guys chime in anytime you want. But my view is that it's information and insight. And the best way to explain that is you could pick up Siri and you could say, Siri, how long will it take me to get to work? And it can give you that information. It can't yet, but what it wants to do is for me to ask the second question, right?
It can.
Can it do it now?
Can.
Okay, great. So what time do I need to leave to get to work tomorrow is the second part, and that's insight. So when you take data, so think about a computer with artificial intelligence, that's literally a program built with algorithms that can literally go deep into the data and find answers faster than you could find.
And the interesting thing is, if all of us just kept our own traffic data when we left and we got home, we kept on our own Excel spreadsheet, we would never have enough data to answer that question. But when enough people come together and share their traffic patterns, then the insight can come out and say, oh, I should leave now because I have enough data to have a real insight.
Yes. Blockbuster had a monopoly on the insights within a store.
That's right.
They had no knowledge of what was happening outside the store or with the stores combined, which made them stupid, okay? So when we think about data, we have to realize that individually, each of you have amazing data, but your data is tainted. It's only your data. So it's tainted around your business. And number two, it's a small data set. So it's not that meaningful. If I went to the research team and we said, we're going to write the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and we're only going to interview one agent's insights and then write the book, what would that look like?
It's called opinions, not research.
There you go, right? Yeah. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, the story of how one agent built a business and changed the world, and if you do exactly what they did, you will too, would not be that valuable to you. Okay, that's the point we're trying to make. It takes a big data set in order to create insights that actually matter. And by the way, with big data sets, you and I don't have the time or even the ability to dig into that data to find the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, when people say big data, there's a whole practice around building algorithms to build algorithms, because it's that complicated.
Yeah, so that's all artificial intelligence is. It's really not a complicated thing. And what's interesting is you read the articles. Elon Musk has become very famous right now for saying that artificial intelligence is the first step towards the annihilation of all people on the planet. That actually could be true. It could be. It's not going to happen in my lifetime.
I just want Siri to understand me.
Yeah,
we can just start there. That would be awesome.
Yes, that's right. Well, so the point is that there is so much road to run on before we get to there. Now, understanding that up front and talking about that, thank you, Elon Musk. Thank you for anyone, because I do believe that's going to be an issue, okay? One of the biggest challenges that we have in the world today is our regulatory bodies lag way behind technology innovation. Now, the people in Silicon Valley, just as an example, they totally understand this. That's why they're willing to cheat. That's why they're more than willing to just break rules and take stuff, because there are no laws or regulations around that. Remember, this is an industry that convinced your Congress to let them not pay sales tax and give them an unfair advantage against every bricks and mortar business out there. I still remember the day when those titans that we talk about all traveled to Congress and pitched it, right? So Amazon, back then, the shipping wasn't cheap, but you paid no sales tax, thus it made up for it. Now that's an unfair advantage, right? Had they given all the bricks and mortar stores no sales tax opportunity, then Amazon could never have been born. When you look inside how technology has crept into your life, it's a little darker and a little more sinister than you would naively believe. When I get in my car and my phone blinks on and says you're 7 miles or you're 8 minutes to somewhere, I'm a little freaked out.
It's a little creepy.
It's very creepy, okay? And that's a reminder that it's always on, always analyzing. Yes, sure is. Right? Yeah. All right. So AI is getting ready to take over our careers, our businesses, and our lives. And that can either be a good thing or a bad thing. Depends on whether you're the tail or the dog. You with me? Who wants to be the dog? Okay. I'm here to tell you right now that the game has not been won. In other words, you are not late to the party, but it is starting right now. You with me on that? Okay. So there's a sense of urgency now that, and it's funny, my son's sitting there on the front row and he didn't fully understand it when I would sit there and say to him, you know what, John, this is just a true story, man. I'm as transparent as they come. And I would say, John, if we don't get this thing right, I should sell Keller Williams. Did I say that or not? Yeah, and he would sit there and he'd go, Dad, what are you talking about? Then, of course, he got out of college, all right? This is when he was in business school. He gets out of business school, then he starts looking and understanding what's going on. He says, you can never sell it, Dad, but I now know what you're saying. Okay? So we're at that moment in history, okay? So, and by the way, one of the great opportunities that we all have is Keller Williams is a privately held company. We can do whatever the freak we want.
Yeah.
By the way, and we have enough money to do it. And that, hang on. The only reason I say that is from the very beginning, I put out an argument early on that said NAR will not protect us. MLS will not protect us. The only protection we really have is to all work inside a business that absolutely can protect us, because that's its goal and its mission. When you look at the playing field today, everyone that you hear of, right, every new player that's entering is not privately held. You're the only one left. Yeah. If you didn't clap on that, no offense, you're either pretty stupid or you're asleep. If you're asleep, apologies on me. If you're stupid, I have a message for you. Get the hell out of the way. Listen to me. Well, this is the way I talk in the room. Tell me if I'm wrong. Sometimes they censor me, right?
Live and unfiltered.
Yeah. Mary Tennant spent her entire leadership career going, we can't say that, Gary. I love you, Gary. We can't say that.
I think she's still saying that.
Yeah, she's still nodding her head. We can't say that. Yeah. I'm not looking at her right now because it's, right? Yeah, I got that. Yeah. Seriously, I have a degree in real estate, folks. I've been in this industry since I was 21 years old. I am 60 freaking years old. I intend to go to my grave, and my headstone says he was a realtor. And what I'm saying to you is it don't get in my way. And hang on. And by the way, don't get in the way of the person next to you. If you don't want to save the industry, then for heaven's sakes, don't sell it out for the next guy. Okay? All right. All right, you got it. So by the way, AI, artificial intelligence is nothing more than a tool. Tools have always enhanced our human capabilities. Levers helped us lift more. Pistons and gears let us move faster. Calculators let us add and subtract more. Artificial intelligence allows us to access more data, gain more insight, and make better decisions. Okay?
Gary, we're already doing that. We don't realize it all the time. And we talk about Siri and maps. We were laughing. Anybody remember like printing out MapQuest instructions to drive? And that was cool. Turn by turn directions. You just had to read them while you were driving in traffic. And now, like, it talks to you. Your phone says there's traffic up ahead. Turn right on Westchester Street, right? We're already being enhanced. How can we harness that and bring it inside?
Well, imagine if you were the business like Garmin that built all of those devices.
They were in the hardware business.
They were in the hardware business. Yeah. Yeah, they got Netflixed. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So the real estate industry, you guys, is in a battle, and it's being fought right now. It's really odd. Again, everyone would have thought it was the listing data, but as I take you through this journey today, my eyes really got opened, and what I realized is you're okay right now. The next decision you make will determine whether you're okay forever or not. Okay? So the game and the players, I honestly believe this, and I say this every day, we are in the most interesting time I've ever seen in my life for our industry, and in the next 12 to 18 months, the game will be decided. That's how fast this is gonna happen, right? You can ask my wife. She says to me every day, she says, you're working longer hours and more than I've ever seen you work, yes or no? There's my lovely wife. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I have no choice. This is the time, okay? Yeah, so here's the challenge. You can't bolt technology. Hang on. If you agree with me at the end, I'll let you clap, okay? For yourselves, for the decision that I want you to make. You can bolt technology on top of a physical platform and win. You can't do it. That gives you a Blockbuster or a Barnes & Noble. That's what it gets you. Or it gets you Keller Williams in its current state with the consumer or agent technology. You know what that means, right? Yes, you're brilliant one day and you're village idiot the next day because it changes, which means you have to control it. It's the only way you can get it right. Yes?
Yeah, it'd be like Amazon wouldn't buy an off-the-shelf e-commerce platform.
And let me make a comment to you, and I mean this with all respect, but a year ago, we had leadership up on stage that was talking about what we were going to do, like we were going to go buy AI off the shelf, right?
Yes.
Folks, we had already written a contract for artificial intelligence to a firm, and they were developing this. When we got the full contract back, it was, remind me again, it was $10 million. We had a 2-year head start. We would make it smart, and then everyone in the industry could use it. And by the way, they own the data.
And the phone number.
So and the phone number. We left Family Reunion and became the biggest liars on the planet. And I still remember when that contract was laid in front of us, it was Mo Anderson, and then it was Mary Tennant. Mo was the first person to go, we can't do this. And then Mary Tennant goes, we can't do this. And then we all agree we can't do that. By the way, those technology leaders that were here on stage a year ago don't work here. Okay, no more clapping. At the end of it, yeah. Hey, yeah, they're not here. That's awesome. Yeah. No. The only one left standing is this guy. He's the only one that was left. Interestingly enough, just as a side, okay, no more clapping. Okay, well, that's John Davis. Okay.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Yeah. And your wife. Yes. Yeah. We're employed. Yes. Awesome. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, that's it. Now, neither good nor I'm not trying to villainize people. No, I'm not saying good or bad people. What I'm saying is that we looked up, and at that moment in history, we realized bolt-on technology, we're done with that. That would mess you up so bad, you would have no choice. And that because we're your partner, and you send us your hard-earned money, we have an obligation to stop that. So we had to reinvent the company, and we had to say we're a technology company, but number two, that means we build the technology. Number three, it means we better have technologists. So if we go back a little over a year ago, we had how many people that actually touched code for us in the company?
We have probably less than a dozen people that would write code that was being pushed to production.
Yeah, our technology departments were really about supporting the bolt-on technology. That's what they were, okay? Today, what would be your estimate for how many people, and you can include property management software, you can include all of that. How many people are touching code for us right now?
We're in a relationship with over 200 people now that are coders or data scientists.
In 1 year, okay? So you don't have to keep, John, you don't have to keep clapping, but I just want to make a point to you, and that is we actually are a technology company. We are not a real estate company anymore. Now, we're a technology company who is building the real estate platform that our agents and their customers will prefer to use. Do you understand what that means? Okay. So we're a real estate technology platform company.